Today's podcast is brought to you by RevUp Academy. If you are headed into another year in customer success with big goals, but the same habits, hoping something finally clicks, this is for you. I know you want more confidence, you want more strategic influence, and you want a clearer path to promotion and revenue ownership. But without the right guidance and support, most customer success pros stay stuck doing great work that never gets seen or rewarded. RevUp Academy is my 6-week high-touch coaching program for ambitious customer success professionals who want to become revenue-minded, lead with value-driven conversations, and be a trusted strategic partner by their executives. We have just closed enrollment for the current cohort, but the next cohort is opening in spring. And if you want early access and a priority spot, as well as a little special discount, then head over to thecustomersuccesspro.com/rev-up and join our VIP waitlist. If you're serious about stepping into a different version of yourself in 2026, RevUp Academy is where that transformation starts. Go ahead and head over to thecustomersuccesspro.com/rev-up to join our VIP waitlist. All right, let's get into the episode. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Anika Zubair, and welcome to the Customer Success Pro podcast, your go-to space for real talk, expert advice, and actionable insights in the world of customer success. I'm a CS executive leader, award-winning strategist, CS coach, and customer success fanatic. I help CSMs and CS leaders build the skills and the confidence to become revenue-driving pros and scale world-class CS teams. So whether you're brand new to CS or a seasoned leader, this podcast is here to support your growth. Because customer success isn't a destination, it's a journey. And I'm here to be your guide and navigate every step of your journey. So join me every Wednesday where you'll get fresh CS tips, tricks, and strategies you can actually use. Some weeks I'll share my own insights and best practices from working in CS over the last 13 years. And once a month, I'll bring on expert guests to dive into the most relevant and pressing topics in customer success today. So if you're ready to level up, hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you tune in, and let's make your CS journey a little bit easier together. Welcome back. Today's episode is one that I am really excited about because we are tackling a problem so many customer success teams struggle with daily. And the problem that they struggle with is, how do you prove ROI when your product does not clearly show it for you? Today, my guest is Natasha Evans, VP of Customer Growth at Hook, where she leads all post-sales customer teams as well as marketing. Before Hook, Tash ran global customer success and renewals at SalesLoft, owning renewal targets while scaling CS teams across the world. Tasha spent over a decade in customer success, starting as a CSM and growing into an executive leader, always with revenue, retention, and expansion on her shoulders. She is known for building practical frameworks that make value visible even when product metrics alone do not tell the full story. She is also a huge advocate for working parents, female leadership, and positioning customer success as a true revenue function inside of SaaS companies. In this episode, we are going to break down how customer success teams can prove ROI when dashboards fall short, and how to communicate value in executive language, and what actually moves the needle when the product is not doing the storytelling for you. So let's get into it. So welcome, Tosh, to the podcast. I'm so very excited for this conversation. It's near and dear to my heart. But before we get into today's topic, please, can you tell my listeners a little bit more about yourself? Tell us a little bit about your career story. I love that you're doing customer growth. What the heck does that mean? And then also what your team at Hook looks like today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited. So VP of Customer Growth at Hook, we'll come back to what that means. I have been in customer success for like 10, 11 years now. I started out at LinkedIn and I landed that role because I was a recruiter before, and then I'd moved into like sales and systems enablement for the recruitment team. So it was like I'd figured out how to sell and how to service clients. And then I was helping train other people on how to do that, and landed my first gig in customer success. Weirdly, when I applied for the role, it wasn't called customer success because customer success like wasn't like a thing or a term then. And it was just starting to get branded, which was kind of cool. And I remember joining and being like, what the hell is customer success? Like, what the hell does a CSM do? And so I started my career in LinkedIn, and I had a like global accounts book of business for LinkedIn, which was so cool and taught me a lot about how you scale within an organization, how you work with different stakeholders, how you multi-thread. And I'm so fortunate that it was like a more commercial customer success role. And that really spurned this like love of commercial CS that's stuck with me throughout my career. And then I moved into a team lead role and then a management role at LinkedIn. And so then I led their UK customer success teams before moving over to SalesLoft. And at SalesLoft, I was their first EMEA CSM, kind of like player coach role. I grew out the EMEA team, and then just bit by bit, like put my hand up for a bit more responsibility here and a bit more responsibility there. I took on their global programs, and then I took on their scale function, and then I took on their enterprise team, and eventually got the big job and was asked to run their CS and renewals function globally, which was such an incredible ride. And while I was there, I was looking to solve a problem with my ability to spot risk and influence churn, and happened upon this really cool new tech company called Hook, and bought it for my team, rolled it out for my team, and was one of Hook's biggest customers. And then moved over to the dark side. And so I've been...
I love when customers become like part of the company that they are such strong advocates for.
It's so fun. And it's really fun because then on the inside, I would hear stories about like how for us was prospecting me and how they were trying to get things set up in the implementation. It's like so funny hearing it from the other side. But I've been at Hook nearly 2 years now, which is kind of unreal. I don't know where the time's gone. And yeah, VP of customer growth. So I have an interesting role. I lead all of the post-sales teams. So technical implementation and support, customer success. We call that account management at Hook. Maybe we should chat about why, I don't know. Data science, because a big part of our offering is machine learning and algorithms that predict outcomes like upsell opportunities like your churn rate. And then I also lead marketing, and I've led marketing for about the last year, which is really cool. And it's just such a nice, like full circle moment for me to have this full view of, okay, well, we're positioning ourselves like this and we're pitching this to prospective customers. Is that really what we're delivering? And how do we make sure that narrative is joined and that everything that we're saying we do, we actually go and do? But then when we go do it and we've measured it in the right way and we have really cool stories, how does that feed back into the start of the loop in terms of going and telling all these other prospective customers what we do and how we do it and the success that we've had with our other customers?
Yeah, and I love that. I love that you run
really cool.
marketing and customer because I think everyone just thinks of CS and sales being like the FX, and then you end up working really closely with your sales counterpart because there's a handover, the closed deal, and then the ongoing value. But I do think marketing gets kind of put by the wayside and not on purpose, but like you just said, how you position and how you actually market your product to the right ICP then determines if that customer is going to close successfully and then eventually renew successfully. So I love that you get to work from probably the wording on your website all the ways to renewal.
Yes.
And your team basically gets to control that entire narrative, which is extremely powerful because I think a lot of times there is a big disconnect. Sometimes what is, again, marketed or positioned on your website doesn't end up being the exact reason or the exact way your customer renews because of how your product is then actually used in daily life rather than how it's positioned. So I love that you have that full journey. And you mentioned account management. I want to ask a little bit more about that. Why not customer success? Why account management?
We've been quite intentional there. Not to say that we won't ever call the role a CSM, like for what I would consider a CSM, like this role is a CSM.
Okay.
But we're just really aware that customer success means so many things to so many different people to so many different organizations. And I don't know, like there's a bit of an identity problem. Like, who are we? Are we revenue led? Are we commercial driven? Are we more people that go answer support tickets and just train on the product? Who are we? And I think we as a business really, really believe, and certainly me as a leader, really believe in like commercially driven CS teams. And so my team owns the renewal. We also own upsell. And when I say own, like we're accountable for the number, but we're also accountable for negotiating the renewal and negotiating the upsell.
Yeah.
And I think we're really strong in our position that that's what best in class CS looks like. And that's the impact that we can have. It's just that we're not 100% sure that the title CSM fully matches the our view of the world. And is that really where we want to kind of like place our stakes? And so we're taking a little bit more time thinking it through.
Yeah.
And so calling it an account manager right now also just helps me attract that kind of like more commercial talent into that CSM role.
I love that. But also my earlier titles, like you said, didn't have customer success. I wasn't a manager before. I was an SDR and an account manager and then eventually became a CSM when the title was coined. But you're so right. I just recently did a podcast on like predicting 2026. Is customer success going to be account management or support, or what are we actually going to be? Because we're in some sort of identity crisis, like you just said. But it's just funny because like yourself, I have always had quote unquote commercial targets, meaning myself or my teams have always been responsible for renewals and upsells. And I think CS is being split in two directions really as we go into 2026. Either you're technically supporting, implementing, integrating the customer and really a supportive role, or you're doing a little bit more of the hands-on of negotiating a renewal price or negotiating how many extra seats looks like or however that looks like. And I do think that split might be more and more common, interestingly enough, because I think there's a lot of people who are very adverse to the selling, which I think selling is such a dirty term that we shouldn't consider it dirty. But also at the same time, there is a certain skill set that is needed in order to have commercially driven conversations or have the acumen that's appropriate for that level of conversation as well.
But often it's not the skill set that people think it is. Like I think sometimes as CSMs we're like, hey, oh yeah, but I don't know how to sell. I can't be a salesperson. I don't have the sales skill set. And it's like, yeah, you do. Like you know how to ask good questions. Like you know how to tie what you do back to value. You know how to go engage with different stakeholders. Like that's a skill set that a really great CSM has. You don't have to learn how to go pitch. Like some of that, naturally you can build in, or you know how to do already because you've been running training sessions your whole life and you've been talking to the value. And so I think some of it is just realizing that we've got the skill set in there. It might just need a little bit of honing.
Yeah, I think it just needs practice, if I'm completely honest. I think we're a little bit rusty, but like you just said, it's not pitching and it's not closing, actually. If you're pitching and closing, I'm sorry, like you're probably not communicating value. Yeah, if you're going to have to pitch so hard and you're going to have to actually close like a deal, like that's of course, again, what an AE or a salesperson is targeted and have the skills to do to really get in and make sure they close a deal. But if you are consistently showing value throughout the customer journey and you're consistently making sure your stakeholders and executive buyers are seeing a strong ROI or at least usage of your product, then it's not a hard pitch or it is not a hard sale. And so I totally agree that it's probably a misunderstanding of what sales skills actually are and what customer skills really are as well. Hey, CS Pros, just a quick pause from our podcast because I wanted to quickly jump in and let you know that if you're enjoying this episode but wondering how you too can become a revenue-focused customer success professional, then I have the answer for you. If you're leading a customer success team right now, you have probably noticed the same pattern. Your team is busy, they care, and they show up, but when it comes to commercial conversation, renewals, and clearly articulating value, their confidence starts to wobble and QBRs feel a little bit heavy, renewals feel super stressful, and everyone is doing their best, but without a shared framework, it feels really tough. And this is exactly why teams bring me in for my corporate workshops. My Customer Success Pro workshops are practical, interactive, and built around real customer conversations, not just theory or not generic enablement. We work through how to lead value-driven conversations, uncover business outcomes, communicate ROI, and walk into renewals calm and prepared. So whether you're planning an offsite, an SKO, or team enablement session, these workshops are designed to sharpen skills, build confidence, and create impact your team can actually measure. If you are exploring training for your team this year, you can learn more at the Customer Success Pro /team event. That's the customersuccesspro.com/team event. Or, of course, I will link it down in the show notes. All right, let's get back into our episode. Anyways, let's talk a little bit more about marketing and CS together and how you run all of that. Now that you run both teams, I'd love to know from someone who's uniquely in this position, like, has it taught you anything about how you communicate value, since we're talking about that? Because that is the hottest topic of within SaaS and customer success right now.
That's such a good question. And I think it's interesting because I think understanding customers as well as I do. And I'm in, like, honestly the best position in the world, because not only am I a CS leader, but my customers are CS leaders. So I have this, like, really unique perspective of, like, understanding my customer, because I feel that the same pains. But when you're a CS leader, you understand your customers more deeply than anyone. And so being able to translate that narrative around pain and how you solve that pain back into marketing is just so wonderful as a CS leader. But I've been learning a lot on the marketing side of the house. Like, I am not from a marketing background. That is not my thing. And I've been learning a lot about messaging and how you translate messaging. Part of the problem, part of what I've found really difficult this last year is everybody says they do everything. Like, there are no filters, there are no guidelines or guardrails around what people will market and what people will say they can do and what they say that their product can do.
AI, I feel like marketing 2025 was like, add AI to your SaaS product name and let's just position us as an AI tool.
Exactly. And this is, like, it's been a real struggle, like, really trying to differentiate your messaging around, okay, well, we have done AI for 5 years now. It's, like, built into the core of our product and everything we do. We did not just whap it on a random website and go, we can do AI. But trying to differentiate yourself in the market is really difficult. Now, the really interesting parallel with that is that as a CS team, everybody's facing the same thing, because your customers now are being bombarded with all of these different tools and tech, trying to get you to churn and go over to them, because they all say they can do this thing and we do it with AI, and so it's quicker. And so the noise in the market, both from a CS perspective, but from a marketing perspective, is kind of insane. And everyone's saying, well, I do AI and I can do this and I can save you money and I can do the efficiency piece. Yeah. And so I've really been spending a lot of time this year just trying to figure out, like, how do I combat that? Like, how do I cut through the noise?
Yep.
And so my, like, original way of trying to do that is just really talking to the pain and uniquely how we would solve for that pain, and just using some of my experience to try and be a bit more, like, specific in our messaging rather than we do AI. Done.
Exactly. But it's so important. I just think that I also think another skill that CSMs don't realize that they do, but it's also a marketing skill, is value articulation, or exactly what you just said. The way you articulate your messaging, the way you articulate, it makes all the difference, because your main power user, or the person that logs into your product every day, and your executive buyer, the signer that actually has the budget to sign off on using or continuing to renew with your product, the way you articulate value to those two different people, it's a messaging. It comes down to messaging and the way that you position yourself as a value additive within that business and organization. And I think sometimes, again, we have those skills within customer success, but it's almost like we're not practicing them correctly. And I love that, again, the mix between marketing and CS is so close, and I don't think we realize it. We don't realize it because we work, unfortunately, in silos. It happens. Even though we try our best to work cross-functionally, we end up working in this way of our own bubble of, like, no, this is a CS problem. No, it's really it's really a company or marketing and CS problem is the way we articulate value.
Well, one thing that I've loved this year that I have learned, I went to a talk with April Dunford. I don't know if you've been to any of her talks before. And I will try and find the book because I can't remember which book it is. But her whole piece was on differentiated positioning. And she has kind of a formula or a framework that you can follow. And she gives a really good example of it live. I'm sure it's in the book as well. And she talks about figuring out what's your USP, what's the things that your tool can do that nobody else's tool can do, and just focus on those, list them down, and then write down the so what of that, and then the so what of that, and then it links you to the value, right? So the value at the end is makes you money or saves you time or whatever it is, but that's the value that everybody is communicating. They're all saying they save you time. They're all saying that they impact on your GRR, NRR in my case. So she was take it one step back and focus really hard on the step before that. So the USP, the thing that your platform can do that no one else's can, the so what of that, the so what of that. And by marketing that piece, you are then standing out from the crowd. You're being a lot more specific in exactly how you do the value piece. And the value piece is inferred, people get it. By seeing that piece that you can do that no one else can do, they can join the dots themselves and see how it's going to make them money or see how it's going to make them more efficient. And so I think that's really interesting as well from a CSM perspective. I'm sure there's loads of CSMs who really feel like it's an insanely competitive space right now. And they're trying really hard to articulate the value or trying really hard to differentiate versus all these new competitors that are being spun up by AI. Yeah. And so I think that this book from April Dunford isn't just relevant for marketing, it's relevant for sales, it's relevant for CS as well, because we're all trying to get that message across.
Yeah, I completely agree. April's a great speaker. I've seen her put that framework out live as well. I've never read her book, but I was yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, I'm going to buy the book.
Ask yourself why. Why is that the case? And so I think it's something that we all need to pause and really think about. But you just mentioned a few things that are just, again, very relevant right now in 2026, very relevant for most CSMs, is that they are really struggling with value articulation and ROI. Those two things have to be the number one and number two reason why customers either renew or upsell with your product and service. And many customer success managers are really struggling with this because they just, they don't measure things early with customers. And also it's really tough because you get sold in one thing and then you're just implementing and running along. And sometimes value articulation does have to start from day one. Yeah. And I love that you brought it up. It's the whole point of this conversation today. But what do you think strong value articulation or strong value conversation looks like from day one, especially for CSMs that are maybe struggling with not having it in their product or not having that data ready to hand?
I think that there's lots of different pieces for us to unpack. But I think the day one, the very first thing that you have to do is you have to tee up with your customer having that level of relationship. And so in your first interaction with a customer, teeing up that you want to understand the objectives that they're trying to hit, that you want to understand what's going to make you look good as my champion in the business, as the person whose neck is on the line for this, who said yes to this, or who's going to roll this out. Teeing up that you want to understand that and you want to understand that deeply, and then teeing up why it's important. I always say with these things, context is king. You have to explain to someone why they should walk you through what they might feel like are business level objectives that they don't know if they can share, and really centering yourself around what is the value that we have to prove in this organization and what's going to make you look good. Yeah. And then you build that into, okay, well, if we want to get there, let's figure out the use cases and the applications of our product and how we're going to improve your process or how we're going to upskill your team or how we're going to do whatever to help you get to that narrative. And that's how you build out a success plan that then becomes your piece that you're measuring time and time again with your customer. But I think the very, very, very first day one thing, before you even ask the questions about understanding business objectives, is you've just got to tee up the fact that you want to have that level of conversation. Yeah. Because otherwise what will happen is you just naturally get pulled into, well, this doesn't work, or well, how do I do this, or how do I do that? And so you have to set the bar in the beginning.
Yes, I love that. You have to ask the questions. And I think sometimes we go so stuck in delivery mode that we forget to actually pause and, like you said, set the tone, understand what it is they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
I think the one other thing I would add to what you said is like benchmark, because a lot of CSMs that I work with and a lot of customer success professionals in general, they're like, oh, well, I don't know how to calculate ROI because, I see what they're using today, but I have no idea what they were doing before, right? But then
Yeah.
benchmark, like ask your customer, hey, before we start using this product and tool, where are you guys at today? And
Yeah.
where do you want to kind of get to in 30, 60, 90, 180 days, whatever it is? But if you don't have, like you said, setting the tone and you also don't have a benchmark of where you're starting, like I'm sorry, no matter how great your product is, no matter how much product data you end up having, you're never going to be able to calculate ROI or value correctly without what you just said. And then again, benchmarking as well.
Totally. I think, so I agree with you. I just think that comes, there's like kind of almost like an order in my brain to the process. It's like, you've got to set the tone to have that level of conversation with your customer. Then you have to figure out what are the business objectives that we need to influence? What does value look like? And yes, you want a benchmark for that. Where are you at now versus where do you need to get to? So for us, it might be CSM efficiency. It might be impact on their GRR and their NRR. Well, where is it now and what's your target for the end of the year? That's your like first benchmark. And then you understand the things that are stopping them getting to that objective right now. Okay, cool. Well, we're struggling with this. We're struggling with that. We're struggling with that. And then you apply your use cases in your application. You build out your success plan. And then you need to benchmark the leading indicators to the bigger objective that you've already gotten your baseline for. So it's okay. Well, if we work on all of these things, if we do these things right, that shows that we're on track to hitting that big thing up there. And that's when you then get a baseline for some of these things, the leading indicators too.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you said like capturing those real business outcomes. Super valuable, so important. I would say a non-negotiable in your very first steps of speaking with a customer.
Yeah.
But again, they get forgotten, honestly. I think we make lots of assumptions in customer success. We're like, oh, they just want to get going. Let's run. Let's get them to their first login or first dashboard creator or whatever your product does, right? And I absolutely think that a non-negotiable question a CSM should ask is about real business outcomes and what the customer cares about. But I do think sometimes, again, it's like either nerves or just wanting to be in that delivery mode. Do you have like any tips on how any like CS professional can really make sure that they're getting to that, not only setting the tone, but getting those business outcomes up front?
I think there's a few things here. You mentioned nerves. I think that's definitely part of it, is like having the confidence to ask the big questions. Sometimes we're just asking the wrong people. Like sometimes we're pushed down, or we let ourselves get pushed down to somebody who's administrating the tool, and maybe they don't know the answer to the big question stuff. And so what I like to do is like vary the questioning, but also vary who you're asking the question to. And so thinking about asking questions like, okay, well, forget our software for a second. Because by the way, where so many CSMs go wrong is they think that the big picture business objectives is adoption of their platform.
Yeah.
And it's
that's one software of like 80 in their tech
exactly. It doesn't quite work. And so forget our software for a second. What are the big goals that the company's looking to hit this year? Or what are the core revenue goals or the core outcomes that the business is looking to drive? And then sometimes if you're asking that question to somebody who is too junior, you could also ask questions like, when you did your company kickoff this year, what were the big initiatives that were talked about time and time again?
Ooh,
or when you have your company all hands, because so many of us work in tech, when you have your company meetings or company all hands, what are the big things that the CEO is always talking about? Like what are the big drivers and the initiatives from there? And so thinking about just changing your questioning to where that person might have gathered this information, or sometimes you just have to ask the questions to a totally different person.
Agreed.
We released a guide this year on success planning, and in that we wrote like a ton of questions that you can go ask to try and find the big picture objective. So maybe I'll give you the link and we could
I can put us down in the show notes.
Yeah. But it's really interesting because we've released this free success planner tool, right? And everyone can go and put in their call recording and it builds them a success plan. And I would say like 80%, maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh, but 80% of the times where I've tested this on like success plans that friends gave me to test the thing on, the AI said, we don't have an objective. And the CSM's like, no, we do. And I'm like, no, you don't. Like, it's built to tell you don't have a business level objective. Like, you've got a goal and that's great, but you haven't got something that the business cares about. And so like, go back and ask questions to get that bigger picture objective.
Yeah.
So it's like definitely an area for opportunity across CS.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think sometimes we get too shy to ask the right questions, but then also, like you said, sometimes you need a little bit of context. Your daily user might not actually know the bigger picture. And if you're going to continuously ask a question that someone can't answer, that person's going to either get annoyed or just stop talking to you because they're like, this person doesn't get me. This person doesn't understand what I'm trying to do. And again, we have to serve our customers where they're at. And sometimes a daily user is just not going to know. And I loved your positioning of like, hey, what did your CEO say at the last all hands? That's super powerful. And again, something that they could probably answer and you can get some more detailed business outcomes from. And I know you talked about the success plan maker, which I think is a great tool as well. But I think sometimes also the other challenge I get from lots of the CSMs I work with is that their product doesn't actually have clear ROI metrics. Like they do all the work. They did exactly what they said. They captured the business outcome early. They captured benchmarking, like we said. They made sure they talked to the right stakeholder, but then they feel like when it does come to a business review or a renewal conversation, that they're like, my product just doesn't have the metrics built inside it to actually give me a strong ROI or value calculation to take back to my executive stakeholders, which I think is another identity crisis, I want to say, what we're going through in SaaS right now as we change because of the economic state. I think products are going to have to change how they measure ROI. But I think there's a lot of products out there that there is no built-in ROI metric. And so how would you, I know you have experience in doing this at SalesLoft as well, but how do you get a customer to agree on measure something when there's no ROI metric built inside your product?
Yeah. Well, I guess we should talk about two things, because it's like if your product doesn't do that, you've kind of got two options. One, you can figure out a way of doing that yourself. So then we should talk about, okay, well, how do you just throw together like a rough ROI calculator or a way of doing that? And then it's like, well, how do you get your customer to do that for you? If your product can't track it, how do you get your customer to track their own metrics and their own measures? And I think the way to get the customer buy-in to do that is kind of the same way of getting the customer to buy into answering your questions about business objectives. It's context. Like, why are you asking this? Why are you asking this of them? Why are you asking them all these questions about what their business objectives are? Why are you asking them to go measure these things? And I think that there's a number of ways you can position this, but I always like to link it back to, I want to be able to make you look good internally, and I want to be able to show the success in 6 months or 12 months of the work that we have put in together. And the best way of doing that is having clear metrics that we have influenced. And so I think if you can position it in the right way, it's easier to get a customer bought into measuring these things. And then you talk about, okay, well, we want to be able to baseline, we want to be able to measure impact on that business outcome, but we also want to be able to measure the leading indicators as well. And I think that that's really important that you get the customers buy-in to both, because with the best will in the world, you could have done every single thing right in your success plan to do all these things and all your leading indicators are green, and we've not influenced the business outcome because we're probably one of 100 things that influences their revenue at the end of the day. And so you still need to be able to prove that actually all this work you've done together has made an impact and is taking the business the right way. And no, not every customer feels comfortable sharing influence or impact on the business outcome at the end of the day. I certainly had that a good bit at LinkedIn. And we used to say to some of our customers that felt that way, that's fine. You don't have to tell me the business revenue, but just tell me, is it trending in the right direction? Because that's what we need to know. And then it's on you to capture that case and to quantify it and to show it internally when it comes to the renewal. Because ultimately, if we're impacting on that business outcome and it's going in the right direction, like that makes an easy case for renewal. And so again, there's kind of like ways that you can get around it, but all of this becomes so much easier if you just build this level of partnership with your customer. And if you approach your key stakeholder like a champion, like, we're in this together, this is a partnership. How are we going to go make you look good? How are we going to go prove the value of this together? actually the first step is to really understand, well, what's the value we've got to prove? And then let's start measuring it now so that all of this good work we're about to do, we can really easily tell that story later on.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you just said about if your champion or anyone you're working with doesn't actually give you the business metric or the actual measurement that they're looking to benchmark and grow from, it's like, are we trending in the right direction? That's a really powerful line that I think a lot of people can use because it's very common. Like some industries, especially if you work in security or cybersecurity or anything like that, or even again, certain industries don't just say they don't share that data. Like they really don't, and they don't feel comfortable or they don't have the rights to share that data, and because of that, it's really hard to prove ROI or value in a mathematical calculation kind of way. And because of that, it's so powerful to say, hey, I get it, but you need to make sure internally that ROI calculation is making sense to you. But can you share, are we going in the right direction or not, is very helpful as a customer success professional to go and take that back as like, okay, my customer is actually going to renew or not going to renew because of what they've shared in that trending direction. It's so powerful. And I think you don't always have to prove a direct ROI, but it is about value. It is about value articulation. It's about being that strategic partner, like you said. And a lot of teams don't have that data. They do not have that data to prove ROI. But sometimes I also still feel that they feel like the product is just not giving them what they need when it comes to any sort of value articulation. And I think, again, we're in this weird place. Maybe in the next few years, the product and the way product is perceived will change.
Yes.
Like, how have you found it giving advice or helping CSMs really prove out value when the product is just not giving them the hard numbers they need to articulate value?
Yeah. Isn't it funny? I think any CSM, if they were to go and set up their own company and build their own product, would build like value metrics straight in. Like,
oh my God, that would be the first thing on a dashboard.
Literally, it's so funny. I think about that all the time.
That's what you would see.
I think about that all the time. And a funny sidebar, I used to ask an interview question. I've had to stop asking it now because I've said on a few podcasts that I ask it, and now people know that I ask it.
So they're like well prepared for it.
Yeah. And it's like, the point is to see whether their brain thinks about value. And the question's stupid. It's like you've just taken on a new customer. You're walking along the road on your way home, big customer launch tomorrow, and you see a genie lamp on the floor and you rub it and a genie pops out. And the genie says, you've got 3 wishes for your customer go live tomorrow. You can wish for anything. Wish for the things that are going to make that customer renew and grow at the end of it. And my wish would be like a value calculator up on the floor in the CSM's corner of the office, and every like thing that they do, it like ding dings, like the revenue they've made or the time they've saved or something like that. So sorry, that made me so how we think about that. But yeah, if you don't have the product data, this is where I think as CSMs we could just do better at. I want to be really careful how I phrase this. Like, not just giving up when things are against us, like give it a go and throw something together yourself. Like, cool, you don't have everything in the product. Most people don't have really great value metrics in their product.
I never did. And I still have to show like an ROI calculation to get the renewal and upsell.
Exactly.
I don't think I ever had a product that gave me, 2 + 2 = 4.
Exactly.
Like I wish I had a value calculator like that.
I mean, maybe it does exist in some products, but not in the vast majority. And so I think you've got to craft your own narrative. You've got to craft your own story and get savvy with a spreadsheet and go figure out how to do that. And at SalesLoft, the way that we did that was we looked at, okay, well, what's like, just start simple, 4 activities or 4 things that we can measure in the product that we know we can assign time savings to. By the way, when you think about value, most people are thinking about revenue influenced, time saving. Like, it's kind of simple, the end goal that you're thinking about. So you can quite easily look through your product and go, okay, well, how could I attribute revenue? How could I attribute time saving to some of these things? Then we focused on 4 key activities that we knew we could measure. And then we estimated what would the time have taken for a salesperson to do that activity if they didn't have SalesLoft. And we put a conservative time estimate in there. That's where loads of CSMs go wrong. They like really crank the numbers up and then they put it in front of their customer and the customer's like, come on, man, you didn't save me 1 million hours this year. Like, chill out. So we were quite conservative and we were really transparent in how we'd assigned the time saving to each of the activity. And then we would just run reports on these activities per customer in our business review and say, you've done however many of this activity, and that calculates this amount of time saved. And so all of a sudden we had this nice little story that says, well, because you've done these 4 things this many times, we've saved you this amount of time as a business.
Yeah.
Now, time saving is a really interesting ROI story because you can stop there. You can, because some customers just care about time save and they're like, I'm really happy with that. Or you can translate that time into, some people will translate that into dollar save because it's like FT, like headcount that you didn't have to hire. Cool, really nice way of translating efficiency into like revenue saved. But where you can get really smart with some roles is you can say, well, imagine what people would do with that time. Imagine the productivity, imagine the sales they would make, imagine the customers they would save. And so you can kind of like get kind of funky with extrapolating that time saving into like bigger revenue impact.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's like being really sensible about what data can I track? How can I build myself a super simple little efficiency or revenue impact talk track around that? Pull the data, and then it's all about how you then position it to the customer. And like I said, it's, not over-egging your time saving because then you're going to come across like
you're absolutely a liar at that point.
But then also just kind of, there's a couple of tricks here, right? Tricks of the trade. Socialize it with your champion before you put it in front of the exec. See if the champion agrees with the time saved for their business, or would they tweak any of the metrics? Have them socialize that number internally before you put it in front of the exec so that you feel really good about your value story. And so there's tricks of the trade that you can do to make sure that value story lands. But the first step CSMs is go give it a go and build it on your own.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you just shared that an ROI story can be an estimate. I think for some reason we hear return on investment, or we see those 3 letters, ROI, and everyone thinks that it needs to be like the square root of pi that we have to calculate. It has to be some sort of calculate. You have to have this great Excel sheet with exact data points and exact pivot tables. And
I have some friends that
I laugh because I'm just who has that kind of ROI calculator? Maybe someday in the future with AI taking over and all these things, maybe, I hope, but who really has that much raw data on what's happening in their customers' world, as well as how their product is part of their tech stack as well? I don't think anyone has that level of data. So creating an estimate, like you just said, and creating a proper story around that estimate of data is so powerful, and something that I think as CS professionals, we definitely need to practice. It's something that we should actually be doing regularly because, again, most executives don't even know the hours or how your tool is saving or whatever. You need to just make sure you have a believable and estimate that story that's realistic based on their usage of your product. And that is enough to actually show value to the executives. But I love that you said estimate because I think sometimes we get so caught up in the numbers and we think we need to become these super mathematicians and figure out this right direct calculation of ROI. And it doesn't have to be that way. It really just have to be the story behind the data that you do actually have. And I think, sorry.
The kind of beauty of the estimate, right? And a friend at SalesLoft taught me this trick. He's in the value team and they do this loads pre-sales, sorry, my brain, is you can show the customer the estimate and then validate it. And if the customer doesn't agree with it, well, then you're opening a conversation to say, okay, cool, well, we've obviously got this really wrong. What would help us get this right is if you were to measure X, Y, and Z internally, and then we would know exactly what that value narrative or that ROI story looks like. And so actually the benefit of the estimate is if the customer doesn't agree with it, cool, Mr. Customer, let's start measuring these things on your dashboards internally so that we can get a crisp, an actual ROI figure that you feel really confident with.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you're just you've been talking so much about your team and how they use the calculators and tools that you've built at SalesLoft, but also in general, you're saying these are the stories and how you've enabled your team to go out there and really put estimates in front of champions or leaders. Do you have any tips for other CS leaders who are listening to this podcast and they know their CSMs can do this, but a lot of it is enabling their team, right? To have some sort of ROI calculator or to basically make sure they have a very strong data story. Like, what does actual good enablement look like from a leadership perspective when it comes to teaching value, the storytelling, the measurement? Because I think that that's also really, really tough and a tough job on leaders at the moment.
It is. And I think it all depends on your own background, right? And whether you were brought up in that kind of CS and whether you've got that experience. And so I think maybe I'd break it into two buckets. If you has come from that style of CS, like roll up your sleeves and get stuck in there. Like go and get on some of these calls, try and figure yourself out in the product. Like what would you do if you were a CSM, if you were taking on a book of business? How would you create a value narrative? Or more often than not, you look in your team and some people are trying to wing this and do this themselves anyway. And you grab those people and you go, right, tell me your story. Let's figure it out together. Let's nail it. And then it comes down to rolling it out across your team. And I was always a CS leader, just one of those people who wanted to do it myself and wanted to give it a go and wanted to.
I feel like I'm the same. I'm like, I want to try it and then I want to make sure I believe in it and then help you get there too.
Exactly. And I think there's like sometimes part of leading from the front is like showing that you can do it and that you can nail that narrative, and being on a customer call and delivering the narrative yourself and seeing how it lands and taking the objections and then figuring it out and running it again. And I think quite often your team then will buy into that. If you're in the camp of CS where you haven't been brought up on that style of CS, but you want your team to be there, then one of the best things about customer success is the community. Like there's so many really incredible like leaders and voices out there that would happily spend time with anyone on like trying to figure out what a great value narrative looks like, trying to talk through how they can manage that change with the team. I think CS is one of the best communities for being able to help each other. And so like, go ask for some help. There's tons of people out there, myself included, that would happily help with that.
Yeah. I think in general, there's just so many ways that you can continue to enable your team. And I really am a big advocate because obviously I run workshops for teams in this way, but I really do believe that CSMs or post-sales teams should have the same, if not more, enablement than sellers get.
Yes.
Sellers get
missed
so
out,
much,
don't we?
We get so much enablement. It's wild. Like as someone who was a seller, I used to get scripts and training calls and all these kind of things. And I'm like, we should really be enabling our teams more. And like you just said, if you've done it and you've led from the front, roll up your sleeves, get in there, get it done. I promise your team will actually follow if they see a good example. But if not, don't be afraid to ask for the help, because trust me, the sales team, every strong sales leader brings in help to help enable their team as well. So don't feel embarrassed about asking for that help.
Yeah, you're so right.
Awesome. Listen, we could keep chatting forever, but I'm so curious, if you were actually starting from scratch again, knowing everything that you know now, what would you do differently when it comes to building value and ROI motions into your CS team? Because I think a lot of people are trying it for the first time right now.
Well, interestingly, I have been through that in the last couple of years where we've come into Hook and gone, right, what's the value narrative? What's the story? How are we going to start? I think there's a couple things. Don't overcomplicate it. Like I think we too often become way too complex in our value narratives, and so I think the best and the crispest like narrative in my career was at LinkedIn, and we had this narrative that was called Build, Engage, Recruit. You built and we worked in the agency business where they would use our LinkedIn licenses to go recruit their staff at the end of the day, and we had to try and attribute value to it. And the point was, you use our solution to build your audience and build your followings. People knew who you were. You engaged that audience to warm it up. And then with that warmed up audience, when you went to recruit, your conversion rates were way higher. And so I just think like a really simple story, and that helps you tell the story of the leading indicators too, right? Like you do this activity and it has this outcome. And then when you do this, that's how you get to your value narrative. And so a super simple, like 2 to 3 point, like flow or story that has some data to back it up. And so that's where I would begin. Obviously, if you're starting again, you've probably got to get access to data. So thinking about what are the data points that map to the flow that you want to go and ask for, and then test it with a couple of customers. Like don't go wild and build everything around it. Like go test the narrative with a couple of customers, see how it resonates, see what pushback you get. And then of course,
reiterate.
Exactly. Iterate, see how you go. Yeah. And look, if you have the best product team in the whole wide world and they can build all of that into product, then go push for that, because
oh my gosh, please tell me which company that is. I'd like a job. That would be heaven. Yeah.
But yeah, I completely agree. Like you just have to figure it out and build one step at a time, and don't overcomplicate. seriously know I'm someone who does it too, but I know that in CS we love to overcomplicate value, and sometimes it's as simple as one sentence or one story or one data point, and go from there and figure out what your customer actually hears when you say that one sentence. So, oh my gosh, thanks, Tosh. There's been so much. I could probably talk to you for hours. This would be like a 3-hour podcast, but we do have to wrap up. And I want to challenge you, as I challenge all of my guests, with the quick fire round, where I ask you a question, and it is your challenge to try to answer these questions in one sentence or less. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Amazing. First question is, if you could predict the future of customer success, what do you think we will focus on next year?
Revenue. AI, but personalized.
Love it.
I think we've gone too hard on, like, everyone's gone AI mad, and like we still have to be really relevant as a CS team. So I think we'll rebalance.
Yeah,
I've done a terrible job.
AI mad, and we have to remember there's
thing.
still humans on the other side of that AI.
Exactly.
And we have to figure that out.
Yeah.
Love that. Next question is, which app or software do you use every day or every week on your phone or laptop, and why? It doesn't have to be CS. It could be anything.
For work?
Like at work or personal. It could be either.
ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Obviously. Hook. Obviously.
Duh.
I'm pretty simple. Like that's me. That and like a spreadsheet and Gong, you know?
Yeah.
Like, let's get it going.
Love it. Love it. Next question is, if you could change one thing about customer success, what would it be?
This piece around just get on and do it. Like, stop moaning about what we've not got. We don't have resources. We don't have tech. We don't have data. We don't have
budget.
ROI. We don't have, like, just crack on. Like, we've got so many good things. Go figure it out.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. What is one cool or new way that you're using AI?
Success plan generator. That's like my favorite thing right now. And I think that's a pretty cool use of AI.
Yeah, I love it. I will link it down below. It's such a great tool, and it's completely free, so I absolutely love it. Great answer. Last question is, who should be my next podcast guest?
I have absolutely no idea. Have you had Alex Farmer on? Can he come on?
I have it, actually.
Oh, there you go. Get my little mate Alex Farmer on. Get him to talk about sales and sales. Yeah.
Alex, if you're listening, damn it. But if you are listening, I'd love to have you on this.
She's coming for you.
I am. Tosh, thank you so much for your insights, your energy. There's so many tips and tricks. If my listeners want to get more or hear more from you or just stay in touch, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
LinkedIn.
Amazing. Yeah. I'll make sure to link her LinkedIn down below as well. Thanks, Tosh, for such a great conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Customer Success Pro podcast. I hope you picked up something valuable to take back to your team. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to me if you took just 10 seconds to leave a review on Apple or Spotify. It helps more CS pros like yourself discover the show. And creating new episodes takes a lot of work, so leaving a nice review keeps me motivated to keep creating. And don't forget to hit subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcast episodes. I drop a new episode every Wednesday packed with practical tips. And if you've got a topic you'd love for me to cover or want to be a guest on my show, send me a message. All the details are in the show notes. I'd love to hear from you. And hey, if this episode helped you, share it with a fellow CSM or CS leader. Remember, sharing is caring. Cheers to your CS journey, and I'll catch you next week for our next episode.